Hello guys, today we will be talking about tissues and as we already know that tissues are sum of cells like two or more than two cells combined to form tissues, and in human body we have four major types of tissues: connective tissues, epithelial tissues, nervous tissues and muscle tissues. These all four types of tissues are different from each other on the basis of their composition, their function, and where we can find them. So we will be discussing them one by one. So let's start with connective tissues first. Connective tissues are the tissues which are made up of two types of fibers: collagen fiber and elastic fiber. Collagen fiber, as we can see from the name, that these are fibers, but these are made up of collagen. So collagen is a type of protein. So these fibers are made up of protein named collagen. So hence the protein is called collagen. So we will call these fiber collagen fibers. And the second form of fibers are elastic fibers. These fibers are also made up of protein which is called elastin. So that is why we call these fibers elastic fibers. And these two fibers are sticking to each other, they adhere to each other. So with the help of a substance or a liquid we call ground substance. So there are fibers, and in between fibers there is a liquid with different kind of substances like glycoprotein, proteoglycans and many other immune cells. This liquid we call it ground substance. So ground substance is very important in sense that it lubricates the tissue and it makes it strong, the connective tissues. And there are mast cells, macrophages and fibroblasts. Mast cells and macrophages are very important in fighting against invaders. If there is any infections or bacteria are there, so these are very important to combat against these invaders. And fibroblasts are important in sense that these are used in repairing of a cell or a tissue after the injury. So fibroblasts make a network or matrix which is important for repairing a wound. So this ground material, a ground substance, is colorless, transparent, it is granular in nature, it can be from the fluid to gel, it can be fluid or it can be like a gel. So connective tissues are fibers having a liquid called ground substance in between. Collagen fibers are basically involved in providing the durability and strength to the tissue, while elastic fibers are very important in providing the elasticity and flexibility to the tissue. So where we can find these tissues? We can find these tissues in cartilage. Cartilage is a kind of connective tissues. Bones is also a kind of connective tissues. Our blood cells are also kind of connective tissues. Adipose cells, adipose tissues, fat cells are also connective tissues. So these are some important connective tissues which we have got, and ligaments and tendons are also connective tissues. So there are two basic types of connective tissues. So we further divide connective tissues into two classes. First is loose connective tissues and second is fibrous connective tissues. So what is the difference between loose connective tissues and fibrous connective tissues? The loose connective tissues have 50% of collagen fibers and 50% of elastic fibers. So there are 50-50. The proportion is equal of these two fibers, and there is a ground substance. While in fibrous connective tissues, there are a lot of collagen in comparison with the elastic fibers. So you can say there are no elastic fibers, but only the collagen fibers and the ground substance. Fibrous connective tissues are ligaments and tendons, okay, and loose connective tissues we can find other parts of our body. Now let's talk about next type of tissues, which is called epithelial tissues. So connective tissues are the cartilage found in our nose and ear. Okay, connective tissues are like fibers. There are two types of fibers: elastic fibers, collagen fibers, and there is a ground substance. They make the bone. Compact types of connective tissues make the bone. They are very important in making ligaments and tendons. Now let's talk about epithelial tissues. And epithelial tissues are very important in sense that they are involved in secretion of different material all around the body. For example, epithelial tissues are found in our trachea, in our air vessels, air pathways, and epithelial cells are found in our kidney, in nephrons. Epithelials are found in the mucosa of in our mouth. Epithelial cells are found in our nose for secretion of nasal secretion. So epithelial cells are found at many places where there is a need of secretion. And epithelial cells are also, our skin is also epithelial cells. Let me show you something which I drew lastly here. Epithelial cells are of different types. We can divide them on the basis of their shape and arrangement. First type of epithelial cells are squamous cells. These here you can see. These are like pancake types of cells. And second type is cuboidal cells. This is like a cube, as you can see from the form. And there is third form is columnar cells, or columnar epithelial tissues. So these tissues are like a column. So these are three basic types of epithelial tissues depending on their shape. And we now further divide epithelial cells depending on their characteristics and arrangement. For example, there are transitional epithelial tissues. Transitional type of epithelial tissues we can find in our bladder, urinary bladder. Here, what does mean transition? To transfer or to change from one form to another. So when the bladder is relaxed, so it's, the epithelial cells in the bladder are bigger, like a columnar. As it becomes stretched out, so it becomes cuboidal and then squamous. So bladder tissues are transitional tissues. So there is a transitional epithelium. So next time when you heard transitional epithelium, it means that there can be find all three types of epithelial cells. There can be found squamous, there can be cuboidal, there can be columnar, but they can change their shape depending on the stretch or stress. And there is another type of tissue which is called, here I try to draw here, but I just show you the other diagram. Stratified epithelial cells. For example, here these are stratified cuboidal. So it is showing that these are cuboidal epithelium, but they are arranged in layers. Okay, so one layer is on the other layer, and then like this, the second, third, fourth, fifth layers. So they are arranged above each other like a layers, like a you can say a sum of combination of cells. This is called stratified cuboidal, and there are stratified columnar tissues. Here you can see there are like columns. And in this case, only the one layer of the cells is attached with the lamina, with this membrane with the basement. Okay. While there is another type of arrangement which is called pseudo-stratified. Okay, pseudo-stratified is, I try to draw here some type of, all the cells present are attached to the lamina, to the basement membrane, but they are giving a appearance of a layering. It looks like they are layered above each other, but they are not true. Every of these cells in the tissue individually attached with this basement membrane. So this is called pseudo-stratified columnar or cuboidal or pseudo-stratified squamous cells, as we can find in trachea or bronchi. So by now we understood there are basically three types of epithelial tissues: simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar. They are making only one layer. There is no another layer above first layer. But there is second type of epithelial tissues which are you can say divided depending on their arrangement, that is stratified and pseudo-stratified. There is only one difference between stratified and pseudo-stratified, that in pseudo-stratified all cells are attached, all cells are attached to the basement membrane, but it gives a sense of layering, that there is some cells are above it, some cells are in lower row, so it gives an appearance, but these are called pseudo-stratified. Pseudo means the false, pseudo means false, and stratified, it's like layering effect. So false layering effect. So why we call it columnar? Because these cells are columnar. If these would be cuboidal, so we would call it pseudo-stratified cuboidal epithelium. If these would be squamous, so we would call it pseudo-stratified squamous epithelial cells. Okay, so where we can find the epithelial cells? I already told you we can find them in trachea, we can find them in our bladder, urinary bladder, we can find them in nephrons, in our kidney, and our skin is also a type of epithelial cells. These are very important in secretion. So for example, our skin secrete sweat. So our skin has sweat glands which are present in epithelium. Okay, so our skin is some of epithelial cells which secrete sweat, and there is a protection from sunlight with the help of our skin, and then exchange of gases in trachea, then absorption in nephrons. There is absorption of absorption of some waste product which was filtered first, but later on it is absorbed back to the body, and there is a filtration, and there is sensation. Sensation is also very important in sense that these epithelial cells have rich supply of neurons. So in our hands or some parts of our body are very sensitive to some different type of stimuli. Here you can see there are different functions written. Secretion like sweat and mucus in trachea, sweat secretion from the skin, protection from sunlight, exchange like gases, exchange in trachea, and absorption as I told you in the nephrons, filtration also in nephrons. In Bowman capsule there is a epithelial cells which are special, like we call them podocytes. They are very important in filtering our waste product from our blood into the urine, and there is sensation, and as I told you there are rich supply of nerves in epithelial cells. So next is nerve tissues. I have got nerve tissues are made up of neurons. So neurons, what are the neurons? Neurons are like a cell body. having a lot of dendrites, branches coming out. And in the center there is a nucleus. These dendrites are important in taking the stimuli from different parts of body and in the central nervous system as well. And there is one branch is longer than other branches. This is called axons. These are called dendrites. These are axons, and axons are covered by Schwann cells. Schwann cells are basically very important for the maintenance of neuron cell. Okay, so Schwann cells are like protectors, you can say. And myelin sheath is also having the same effect, that it is first of all, it helps in sending the signals at faster rate. The sum of neurons which don't have myelin sheath, they send signals, electrical signals in the body, in neuronal cells, slowly in comparison with those who where we can find myelin sheath. And the road of Ranvier, where there are two Schwann cells meet together, and there is a terminal branch. This is called axon terminals. This all is axon, and this is axon terminal, and it sends the stimuli or stimulus to the next neuron or to the targeted body part or targeted area in the brain. So these dendrites are getting stimulus from one types of, there are another neuron which is giving stimulus to these dendrites sending all the signal all the way with the help of axon to the axon terminal and giving the signal to another neuron, and then another neuronal cell are sending the signal. So this is the long chain. So these all together cells combine to make nervous tissue. Nervous tissue are very important in sense that it is involved in connecting our brain with our body and helping our brain to control not only brain, central nervous system, our spinal cord and brain to control our body. There are reflexes and there are different locomotions, proprioception. So there are many different types of functions which are impossible without these neuronal cells, without nervous tissues. Okay, there is a next form of tissues which we have here. This is called muscle tissues. Muscle tissues are three types, okay, and two of them are we really aware of, we are familiar with. First is cardiac muscles, we heard because of heart. Skeletal muscles because of our legs, thigh muscle, our biceps, triceps. So we know about them. And smooth muscles are also very important because smooth muscles are found in our viscera, in our visceral organs. So another name for smooth muscle is visceral muscles. And if we talk about the size, the smooth muscles are small in size in comparison with cardiac muscles and skeletal muscles, and the cardiac muscles are medium in size while skeletal muscles are the biggest in size, okay, in comparison with these rest of two. And smooth muscles are uninucleated while cardiac muscles are also uninucleated, but the cardiac muscles have the nucleus in the center of the cell, and skeletal muscles are multinucleated. So nuclei can be found not only in the center, they can be found in the periphery of the cell. So this is very important to know. And the smooth muscles have involuntary neuronal supply. The innervation is autonomic. Autonomic, it means automatic, like something which is not in your control. Autonomic is a type of nervous system which is not in your control, like supply of blood, like heart rate and different things in our body. So smooth cell muscles are involuntary. Cardiac muscles are also involuntary, while skeletal muscles are voluntary. So we can control our skeletal muscles. We can while we go for workout in the gym or outside, some jogging. So we do run and jog, and we use our muscles of the leg and the hand and all around the body. These are skeletal muscles which we are controlling. And one thing, the smooth muscles are unbranched, and cardiac muscles have branches. So one cell it's like one cell is attached to another cell, and here it's going further, and there is another branch is going. So there are intercalated discs between the attachment, where one cell is attaching to another cell. There is a disc which is called intercalated disc. This is like, one cell is giving rise to another cell. There is another cell is attached, and there is another cell is attached. This is also attached. So these are many cells are attached with each other and giving branches. So one cell is attached with another cell, and the place where it attaches, it is called intercalated disc. Intercalated disc is very important, and it has some structures in itself. We will be talking about that a bit later. Now let's just focus that cardiac muscles are branched, while skeletal muscles are not branched. Cardiac muscles are found in heart, skeletal muscles are found in muscles. It's easy to understand. And smooth muscles are basically found in many of our viscera in our body. These are all alimentary canal, because alimentary canal, smooth muscles are important in peristaltic movement. Okay, so during the childbirth, there's a movement of the uterus, and even there is some uterine cramping also. So this is due to the smooth muscles in the presence, smooth muscles presence in the uterus. And there is a peristaltic movement in our alimentary canal while we are eating or swallowing our food, or there is anti-peristaltic movement when we are vomiting. So this all is due to the smooth muscles. Smooth muscles are involved in the movement of different substances in our body. So, and here we can see that alimentary canal, and there's the blood vessels also, because the blood flows from the arteries to the veins, and much of the blood, except for the proximal, our arms and our proximal extremities, arms and hands and head, the rest of blood comes from downside against the gravitation of the earth. So these are the actually movement of the smooth muscles which is helping our blood to come back to heart. And the bladder has smooth muscle. Our uterus, women's uterus has smooth muscles, and airways, there are like trachea, also there are smooth muscles in our iris. Iris is in the eye, which is basically involved in dilation or constriction of our pupil. Pupil is a hole in the eye which is specified, which has a specific function for letting the light go into the lens and go to the retina. So while iris are the muscles circling around this hole, this pupil, and these iris can be smaller or bigger, so allowing the more light to pass through or less light to pass through. So this iris is very important, and so iris is also made up of smooth muscles. And arrector pili muscles, these are present in our skin. Arrector pili muscles. What is their function? You know, when somebody is cold or angry or something, somebody is anxious due to some reason, so the hair on his skin erects, stands up. So this is due to the arrector pili muscles. The hairs are embedded in type of muscles which are called arrector pili muscles. So when somebody is angry or he is worried or terrified or cold due to some severe environment is there or some situation, so his muscles of on his skin will erect. So this is also due to the smooth muscles. Now let me give you one diagram which we can see some little difference between these three. Now guess which is which. This number one, this is skeletal muscles, and these are intercalated discs. Some of here there are, okay, and these are these are smooth muscles, and these where the cells are meeting, where cells are meeting, there are intercalated discs. This here you can see this and this, where cells are joining with each other, communicating with each other. Number third is our cardiac muscles. As I said that these are branched, so we can see the one cell is branched with other cells, and there's a branch is like a tree. So there are intercalated discs here. So here the somewhere shown the nuclei are basically, this diagram is not 100% right, because one cell has one nucleus, and this cell nucleus is in the center. This is one cell, and this cell is connected with this cell, so there should be a nucleus here, and every cell should have a nucleus, because these are uninucleated cells. These cardiac cells are uninucleated, and these cells are where they interact or communicate with another cell. There is a disc which is called intercalated disc, and there are intercalated discs in smooth muscles also, and there are intercalated discs are in skeletal muscles also. And I'm aware about striations. The striation is a layering effect. It is a kind of lines present in cardiac muscles and skeletal muscles. In cardiac muscles and skeletal muscles. This is due to the presence of actin and myosin protein, two different bands of proteins. But let me show you here if we can find the better picture. Okay, let me draw one my own just to clarify. What I'm drawing, this is cardiac muscle, cardiac tissue. So one cell is connected with the other, and this is a intercalated disc. And in cardiac cells, there is striations in the cells. These striations are actin and myosin bands. These are two different types of protein which are present in the cell. They reside on each other. When there is a contraction, they come closer to each other. These bands, these lines come close to each other. When there is a relaxation, these lines go apart from each other. In contraction, these lines come close to each other. Cells become shorter, but when it relaxes, cell becomes bigger. There is a stretch, so these lines become apart from each other. So these are the nuclei. These are the intercalated discs, and there are bands. Okay, so now one thing very important, but I said you that I will tell you. In intercalated disc, there is adhesion points, desmosome. We call it desmosome. This is very important for keeping two cells contacted and stick to each other. So this is very important for not letting two cells be apart from each other when there is a stretch or relaxation, when there is a force exerting on the cell. So this is very important, keeping two cells together. And there is a gap This gap is found in cardiac tissues. Why? Only in cardiac tissues. Why? Because cardiac tissues are specified for sending the electrical signal very fast. So this gap is called gap junction. So I think for 2 days it's enough. So we have got connective tissues, epithelial tissues, nervous tissues, and muscle tissues. And muscle tissues are further divided into 3 types of muscles: cardiac muscles, skeletal muscles, and smooth muscles. Okay, bye bye.